Hey guys, Mike teaches programming here, and I'm back with another Java tutorial. And today's episode we'll be talking about classes. So, what are classes? Classes in Java are basically the blueprint of any real life object we can think about. So, let's put this into context. Can't even speak. Let's take a book. From looking at a book in real life, we can see its title, its author, and we can see how many pages it has. Okay, let's see in another example. Let's take a car. We can see what color it is. We can see if it is, I don't know, if it's dirty or not. There's so much things we can think about on a car or a book. So let's get right into it and how we can create a class first off. So you want to come over to here and right click anywhere in your new project. So I just created a brand new Java project with just the main method inside. So let's create a new Java class and we're going to call it a book. You can see here I have the option for an interface, enum, annotation, or whatever. Just click on class. So here we go. It's public class book. This is pretty much our standard class with no information at all. But as I said before, if you look at a book, we can see a title and an author name. So let's take those two as an example of our class or our blueprint for that object. So inside here, we define two parameters. So parameters are what this book contains. Okay, so I'm going to type private string and book, or we can just call it name, and we can also do private string author. Okay, they are two parameters inside our class object. Now we can go and we can create a class or create a book, but we can't do anything with it. So the first thing you need to do inside a book is define parameters. Okay, the next thing we need to do is generate a constructor. Okay, so a constructor. Now, what is a constructor? Inside our main method or wherever else, we need to instantiate this class, or we need to create a new book. So how do we create that new book? Okay, we need to make a constructor. So what we can do is type public book, and we can open up the curly braces. Now inside book, we'll take two parameters. We'll take string name and string author. And what we can do is we assign the variables inside the class to the parameters that we pass in. And then we do this dot author is equal to author. So if we call this and we create a new book class and we pass in, let's say, X and the author is Y, we're saying, okay, this name is X for this object and the author is Y. This is what this line of code does. Now we need to access the variables, but let's first see this in action. Okay, so we can instantiate this class out or create a book, this book blueprint or class. So we type book is equal to new book, and we'll pass in the book name as Harry Potter, and we'll type in the author as JK. Okay, but that's fine. But we cannot access any of the variables. It's just a book with the name Harry Potter and JK, but we cannot see what this book's name is without either a toString method or to get the variables. So there is a way to do that, and that's by defining our getters and setters. Now I'm sure whichever IDE you're using, I'm using IntelliJ, but if you just right click on generate, and click getter and setter, take the two, and you can see here it generates a get and set variables methods. So what we're doing here is a way to access our private variables from outside of the book class. You can see that this book class has encapsulated the data so it's private to itself. So we need to access this data to retrieve it and to change it whenever we want. So this is the point and why we define our get or our set, our getters and setters. So if we go back into book or into our main class, we can now change the name. So we can set the name if we want to change the book name for whatever reason, or we could even just simply get the author or the name. Okay, so let's try this out. So we're going to print out a few things. We're going to print out the book dot get name, and then we're going to go book dot set name, and we'll change it to HH, and then we'll do the exact same thing again. Get name, and let's run. So what's going to happen here is it's going to print out Harry Potter in the first line, and then on the second line we set the name to HH, and you can see that the book's name now has changed to HH. Okay, so one more thing I need to say about the classes. I think we've gone over all. You can as well add a toString method. So if you click on generate and we click toString and click OK, now what we can do in main is type out, instead of book.getName, we can type book.toString, and again here just book.toString, and instead of just printing out the book name, it will print out the object for us. Okay, so that's a toString method, and that's what a toString method does. So I think I'm going to leave it here. Maybe next week or our next video we can look at constructor overloads and how we can add more parameters and have a default constructor for all of our classes. Thanks. Subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and if you need to see any other tutorials, give me a shout. Any questions, let me know. Thanks.